Well, hello, boys and girls. It's when I feel like it o'clock, and again, here we are in my washroom, where I do all my greatest work. I am Pearl of Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom. I do this here because my time is valuable, and I need to find every minute I can to get to these fine pearls. Turns out this seems to be the best time for me. Okay, yesterday we did a video on Minnesota and their quest to get a second line center, and it went so well. I got all your letters. Thank you so much for your letters. By the way, help again as I in my quest to get back to regular programming where I can sit in front of the TV, watch copious amounts of hockey, eat cheesies, and do that. You know what I'm talking about. By hitting the subscribe button and the bell so we can have more fun together, more views, I become a YouTube sensation and you get to watch it. That would be great. Okay, so now we're talking about what I wanted to talk about was the Montreal Canadiens and Jonathan Drouin. It seems it's coming out in many of the media areas, even mentioned in the 30-30. You know who I'm talking about there. It's been mentioned on TV, on ESPN, everywhere that the Montreal Canadiens apparently have put Drouin on the block. He is out there for anyone to have. Now, question is, well, first of all, why? Why would Jonathan Drouin be on the block? Well, he's 24 years old and has had several 50-point seasons, which in itself is actually quite fantastic. The issue seems to be, and we got to go back to Tampa Bay here as well, that Jonathan Drouin seems to be a me-first type player. This has not gone well in Montreal for players such as that. The stigma was the same sort of in that area with Subban. Whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but the perception was there. And there has been other players. It's funny, there have been players in their past, like Kovalev and stuff, that seem to have been that type of player, but everybody loved him. It's weird who they seem to pick and choose. But this one in particular, a French Canadian, who they traded a very, very, very good young defenseman for, in Sergachev, to bring over and be their, not necessarily face of the franchise, but they thought possible that he had the talent to be that level of talent. There was lots, when he was drafted, there was lots of things thrown around like Kane type talent. And I think Montreal scouting and development staff saw that same sort of talent in him. But it hasn't come to fruition, at least to that level as of yet, as a 24-year-old, which is getting to the point now where that projection, if that is what you're going to be, should start be heading in that direction. They say now they're calling last year's 50-odd point season a disappointment, and that probably is right for that talent. Pretty nice to have the type of talent that 50 points in an NHL season is a disappointment, but it still is. Now, here's the thing. You put him up on the block now. It's come out pretty much plain that your team yourself thought that his 50-point season was a disappointment the year before. You have a situation where an organization like the Tampa Bay Lightning, who invested heavily in a third overall pick on this player, felt forced to trade him. In fact, Drouin pretty much forced their hand, saying that he wanted to be moved and traded out of that organization for reasons of not receiving the ice time he felt he deserved. Could be construed as selfish. Montreal takes a stab and says, okay, just a young kid, he'll grow up, and he does have that talent. Montreal grabs him, gives up a very, very solid defenseman in Sergachev, who I would have picked higher in that draft, and was it in the draft that they picked him, which wasn't the same draft, I don't believe. But In fact, Sergachev is a little younger. And Drouin, they signed Drouin to a $5 million, $5.5 million contract, I believe, somewhere around there. They've invested heavily in this player, as well as Tampa Bay. And now it's 2 years later, and Montreal is saying, okay, it's time to move on. I think it's quite possible that Montreal knows that they're not going to get the return that they really would need for this player. If they were to trade him now, there's so many red flags out there. General managers are not stupid. They know they're taking a flyer now on a guy who has immense talent, but possibly some attitude issues or something of that nature. In which case, your return for that type of player is going to make it look. Excuse me. Let me now learn to speak again. Okay. It's going to make the Sergachev offering that you gave for Tampa Bay look pretty bad. I think that if you trade him now to a team like, say, I don't know, Carolina, who could possibly use a left winger, has that type of character in their room and atmosphere that might be able to persuade a young player like Drouin to see a different light, I bet that they wouldn't be willing to give up much more than maybe Hayden Fleury and a pick. If you don't know who Hayden Fleury is, he's a young defenseman that has been basically stalled in one spot at 20. He's about 24 years old. He looks like, at best, he'll be a 5'6", probably a depth defenseman unless something really changes in the next little while. And a pick. So you're basically taking a flyer of a defenseman and on a flyer on a pick to lose the salary of Drouin, which might be worth it to you. Somewhere along the line in the season, you can pick up another player of that. And I would say you're pardon me. I'd say you're doing well if that's what happens. If you get the cap room and you can be able to move that, I think you're doing well. I think that might be the best case scenario for Montreal in this situation. And I actually think that it is so likely the best case scenario that it's also very unlikely that that is actually what happens. Vancouver has, I think you could say maybe the New York Rangers, they've got a guy like Nemeshnikov that they don't really want in their lineup, honestly. And if they could pawn him off to somebody, he's got 1 year, $4 million. Maybe you can grab him for that. Whatever it is, all of these things I'm saying in Vancouver, maybe Virtanen, who seems to have had difficulties there. Vancouver could look at it, but they don't really have much cap room. So you would probably have to take a Brandon Sutter and a Virtanen back. Fair enough. However, now that puts Montreal in sort of cap hell if it even fits under the cap. But in all honesty, all of that is a disappointment for a return. I think it's possible, it's very possible, that what Montreal is doing here is burning something under Drouin's ass and saying, you know what, smarten up, kid, because you're done. You're done. We need this now, and yes, we will probably, if we don't see anything, we will probably trade you. But if this doesn't, we are done trying to be a pat on the back now. Get going, kid. Anyways, and I think that's possible that the case that be. And maybe Drouin responds to this sort of embarrassment that would be coming out of whatever it is that's preventing him in attitude or what have you, that is causing him to not have these great seasons or whatever it is that is happening. Maybe this will be enough, and I think possibly that this is what this is. Have a great day. That's my full 42%. That's all I have to give. Lots of love to you.